Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Bed 3200, aka Mr. Antisocial, and we back with another video. We gonna check out today. A newlywed husband that finds out his wife was a trans, and it ends in murder. Hey, yo, we gonna dive right into this video, and y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. This is touchy. This is a touchy one, y'all, but we gonna get into it. So here we go.
What would you do if your entire life turned out to be a lie? Could you handle the truth if the person you love had a secret that could destroy everything? In this true crime case, we reveal the horrifying story of a husband who discovers a shocking truth about his wife, one that ends in a brutal, grisly murder. In Houston, Texas, a newlywed husband uncovered a secret so dark, so devastating, that it led to one of the
This
most
was in
gruesome
Houston.
crimes the city had ever seen. This isn't just a story about a hidden past or broken trust. It's about a marriage that spiraled into pure horror, shocking even the most hardened detectives. The secret was deadly, and when it came out, it tore lives apart in the most brutal way. On the outside, Marcus Johnson and Ebony Davis appeared to be a picture-perfect couple.
All right,
Their
y'all.
love story was one.
All right, y'all. Here we go. Here we go, y'all. Now, let's be real. Was she passed? Was she passed? Or would y'all have questions? Let's be real. If y'all met her at the club, she definitely go pass. I ain't gonna hold you. You met her at the club. The lights is dark. You want to drink. Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, she getting the pass. But how far would the pass go? That's a hard one.
One straight out of a romance novel, the kind that friends envy and strangers admire. Both Marcus and Ebony were Black Americans from the vibrant city of Houston, Texas, where they first met at a community event organized by their local church. Marcus, a tall, muscular man with a rugged charm, was a 32-year-old construction worker with deep ties to his family and community. Raised in a strict conservative household, Marcus grew up with strong values and a sense of pride in being a
Marcus.
provider. He was known for his hard work and
Marcus.
dedication, a man who had his life together. His friends often joked that Marcus was the kind of guy who would take care of everyone before thinking of himself. He was a protector, someone who held traditional values close to his heart, especially when it came to marriage. Ebony, on the other hand, was stunningly beautiful. At 28, she was the kind of woman who turned heads
That's
wherever
why I
she
said,
went.
y'all look.
Tall, with a glowing brown complexion, captivating dark eyes, and an infectious smile. She worked as a hairstylist, building a name for herself in the local beauty scene. People admired her confidence and charm, but what drew most people to Ebony was her warmth and charisma. She had a way of making everyone feel special, and it wasn't long before Marcus was drawn to her like a magnet. Their courtship was quick but intense. Friends and family were surprised at how fast things moved between them. Within months of their first meeting, Marcus was bringing Ebony to every family gathering, proudly showing her off as the one. She fit seamlessly into his life, quickly winning over his mother, siblings, and close friends.
So he
Marcus
brings that real
himself had fallen
everybody.
fast and hard, so much so that within a year, he proposed. Ebony, with tears in her eyes, said yes without hesitation. To the outside world, it seemed like they were living a fairy tale. But beneath the surface, cracks were starting to form. Cracks that Marcus couldn't see, but would later become impossible to ignore. Their wedding day was a dream come true for both of them. Held in the historic Houston Baptist Church, it was a grand affair attended by over 200 guests. The ceremony was perfect.
So he
Marcus
married
stood
that
at the
front of
altar, his
everybody.
heart racing as he watched
200
Ebony
people?
glide
That's a lot
down
of
the aisle
people.
in a shimmering white gown. She looked like a goddess. Marcus couldn't help but think how lucky he was to have found such a beautiful and loving woman. But even on their wedding day, there were subtle hints of unease, things Marcus brushed aside in the excitement of the moment. Ebony seemed distant at times, her gaze
What?
lingering
What
in
you
the
brushing
distance,
aside
lost in
at,
thought.
at the wedding day?
When they exchanged vows, Marcus noticed her hands trembling ever so slightly. He chalked it up to wedding day nerves. But there was something else there, something that felt off. Their honeymoon was equally luxurious. Marcus spared no expense, whisking Ebony away to the Caribbean for 2 weeks of sun, sand, and endless romance.
So my question
Yet,
is,
despite
was
the
he
beauty
hit?
of their
He had to been by this time, cause I ain't want to say nothing. I ain't want to say nothing, and I was gonna let him run his little clip, but he had to been hitting that. Come on, Marcus. Like let's be real. So she must have had surgery. So all that time from when you met her and you was wooed and you took her to the crib, took her to mom, met the little sister, whatever, auntie, uncles, whatever. She still ain't tell you. You hitting it. She still ain't tell you. You at the honeymoon now. Hey yo, it's 2024. Ain't nobody marrying no woman without, you know what I'm saying? 9 times out of 10. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think she was saving herself for the marriage, but now y'all at the honeymoon, even if she was. Y'all at the honeymoon. And you still don't know? Brother, Marcus, brother. Now I'm starting to think about you now, bro.
Surroundings. Marcus felt something was holding Ebony back. She would occasionally withdraw, become quiet, and her eyes would take on a distant look, as if she were wrestling with something deep within. When Marcus pressed her about what was bothering her, she'd quickly brush it off, blaming it on stress or homesickness. "Don't worry about me, baby," she'd say, wrapping her arms around him, giving him the kind of smile that could melt his heart. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Ebony wasn't telling him. After the honeymoon, life moved forward as any newlywed couple would expect. They settled into their small but cozy home on the outskirts of Houston, a quiet neighborhood that offered them the privacy they craved. On weekends, Marcus worked around the house, fixing up the yard, while Ebony focused on growing her beauty business. It was the kind of life Marcus had always dreamed of. He had the perfect wife, a comfortable home, and a future that
I'm
looked
saying
bright.
she got a whole business. Is she hiding this from everybody, the whole community? She got a business, and you cool with everybody, and you seeing she got her business and everything like that, and ain't nobody telling you? Like, do everybody know? And you just don't know? Or don't know, or is she hiding this from everybody?
But as the weeks turned into months, the unease in their relationship grew. Marcus began to notice subtle changes in Ebony's behavior. She became more secretive, locking her phone whenever Marcus was around and disappearing for hours at a time without explanation. She started working late, claiming she had more clients. But when Marcus dropped by the salon to surprise her, he would often find it empty. The excuses became frequent. Meetings with friends he'd never heard of, phone calls she would take in hushed tones. Marcus's suspicions grew,
Was she
but
cheating?
he didn't want to believe something was wrong. He loved Ebony deeply, and the thought of her keeping something from him felt like a knife twisting in his gut. He convinced himself that he was overthinking it, that the stresses of married life were simply catching up to them. After all, no relationship is perfect, right? But the tension only increased. Intimacy became less frequent, and when it did happen, it felt strained. Ebony would turn away after, refusing to look Marcus in the eyes.
So,
She
hold on.
often seemed on the verge of
So-
saying something, her lips parting as if to reveal a truth she couldn't.
There we go. There we got it right there, y'all. He confirmed intimacy, which I already knew because they've been together so long. But you still can't tell when you being intimate with her. You still can't tell because obviously she got surgery.
Bring herself to share. It wasn't until one fateful night that everything unraveled. Marcus had always been the type to respect Ebony's privacy, but his growing doubts led him to do something he never thought he would. He
What?
decided to search through her things. While
Okay,
Ebony was out
you should
with
have been to
friends,
that.
Marcus rifled through her drawers, looking for something, anything, to explain the growing distance between them. That's when he found it, a small box hidden in the back of the closet, tucked away under.
Hey yo, I don't care. I don't care what nobody say, right? And I don't care how none of y'all feel about this, but I'm going always anybody that I'm that close to, I would have been went through her shit. Anything in my house, I need to know about. I would have been looked through her panty drawer, through all I would have knew about all of her shit that she bought in my motherfucking house. Fuck all that.
Piles of old clothes. Inside, he discovered documents that made his blood run cold. There, among various papers, was a birth certificate bearing a name Marcus had never seen before, Elijah Davis. Confused, he dug deeper and found medical records dating back years. Records detailing Ebony's transition from male to female.
What?
Marcus's world stopped. He felt as though the air had been sucked out of the room. His hands trembled as the weight of the revelation crashed down on him. The woman he had married, the woman he had vowed to love and cherish, had kept this from him. Ebony had been born male, and she had never told him. For Marcus, it wasn't just a secret. It was a betrayal of everything he believed in.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. A betrayal of everything he believed in. What? Nigga, man, come on. He had to been onto it before then. He had to been onto it before then. It ain't no way you telling me that even though she had the sex change, she was still making love to you like a woman. Everything she did was so convincing that she pulled that off to a point where you married her and it was time after y'all marriage. Something that she's hiding made you look. Come on. Come on. Let's be for real. Come on. And yeah, I would have been devastated. I ain't even going to say what. I would have been devastated. At that point, I would have been looking for her. It would have turned into me looking for her, searching for her, where to find, where is she at?
Everything he thought their relationship had been built on. His mind raced with a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, heartbreak. How could she have hidden something so important from him? The person he thought he knew felt like a stranger. This discovery would prove to be the first domino in a chain of events that would end in unimaginable horror. What Marcus didn't know at that moment was that his feelings of betrayal and anger were about to spiral into something far darker, something violent and deadly. Marcus sat in stunned silence, staring at the documents spread across the bed. His mind raced with questions, but no answers seemed to come. How long had Ebony been hiding this? How could she have deceived him about something so fundamental? For hours, Marcus remained in the house alone, the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall only amplifying his growing rage and sense of betrayal. When Ebony finally returned home that evening, she was greeted by the sight of Marcus sitting on the edge of their bed, her most intimate secret laid out in plain view. The moment her eyes fell on the documents, her face drained of color. She froze in the doorway, her hand tightening on the doorknob as though she were preparing to run. "You lied to me." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with rage. He stood slowly, holding the papers in his hand like evidence of a crime. "Who are you, Ebony? No, what are you?" Ebony's heart sank as the reality of the situation hit her. She had always known this day might come, the day when her past would catch up with her. But she never imagined it would happen like this. She had hoped to tell Marcus in her own time, in her own way, but fear of losing him kept her silent for too long. "Marcus, please. I was going to tell you, I swear I was. But I didn't know how. I love you. This doesn't change who I am, who we are," she pleaded, stepping cautiously toward him, her eyes filling with tears. But her words only fueled the fire inside Marcus. "Doesn't change who you are? You've been lying to me this whole time, Ebony." His voice grew louder, more frantic, his mind struggling to process the shock. "You tricked me into marrying you. Do you know what you've done? I gave you everything. My love, my loyalty, my life. And this whole time you've been lying to me about the most basic thing, who you really are." Ebony's tears streamed down her face, but she held
The
her
most
ground,
basic
desperate
thing?
to make him understand.
I don't think that's
I
basic.
didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose you, Marcus. You
I don't think that's basic. You didn't tell me you used to be a man? That ain't basic. That's far from basic.
mean everything to me. I thought if you knew, you wouldn't love me anymore.
How do you take 20,000 children in the middle of New York City without anybody seeing?
Marcus's face twisted in fury. You thought right. He spat the words with venom, his anger spiraling out of control. His mind was a whirlwind of betrayal, disgust, and confusion. The room seemed to close in on him, his once beloved wife now feeling like a complete stranger. The argument grew more intense with every passing minute. Marcus's anger was like a live wire, unpredictable and volatile, while Ebony was trapped between trying to explain herself and fearing what Marcus might do next. She had never seen him like this, so out of control, so full of hate. As Marcus yelled, pacing back and forth across the room, Ebony's heart pounded in her chest. She could see the rage building inside him, and it terrified her. Marcus, please, just calm down. We can talk about this. I'll answer any questions you have. Just please, don't do anything rash. But Marcus wasn't hearing her anymore. In his mind, everything he had built with her had been a lie, and he couldn't think straight. All he saw was red, his hands clenched into fists, his breath quickened. Calm down, he barked. You've been lying to me for years, and you want me to just calm down? In a blind moment of rage, Marcus stormed into the garage, his eyes landing on a hammer. Without hesitation, he grabbed it, returning to the house with a chilling determination. As Ebony stood frozen in the bedroom, her eyes wide with fear, Marcus approached with the hammer in hand. Without warning, he swung the hammer down with brutal force. Ebony screamed, trying to shield herself, but Marcus was relentless. Blow after blow, he struck her with a terrifying fury. Her cries for mercy drowned out by his blind rage. The walls of their home were soon splattered with blood as Marcus continued the savage assault. The brutality of the attack was so severe that detectives later described it as one of the bloodiest crime scenes they had ever encountered. But Marcus didn't stop there. Marcus dragged Ebony's lifeless body into the bathroom. His mind spiraled deeper into madness as he grabbed a knife from the kitchen drawer. The rage had taken full control now, any sense of humanity gone. He began to mutilate her body, slashing and cutting with reckless abandon,
Yo, he
disfiguring
cut
her
her
beyond
up.
recognition. By the time the authorities arrived, Ebony's body was barely identifiable, her face and body marred by Marcus's unhinged brutality. When the police finally broke through the door, the scene they encountered was nothing short of a nightmare. Blood soaked the walls and floor, and in the middle of the room, Marcus sat, covered in blood, staring blankly at the scene he had created. His expression was one of haunting disbelief and madness, as though he couldn't comprehend the horror he had just unleashed. In a daze, Marcus grabbed his phone.
Blacked out.
His hands shook as he dialed 911, the weight of what he had done settling in. I killed her, he whispered when the operator answered. His voice was hollow, devoid of emotion. The operator tried to keep him on the line, asking for details, but Marcus could hardly form a coherent thought. All he knew was that his life was over. When the police arrived, they found Marcus sitting on the floor beside Ebony's lifeless, mutilated body, his face stained with tears, his hands covered in her blood. The man who had once been a proud, hardworking husband was now a broken shell, consumed by the weight of his actions. The news of Ebony's death sent shockwaves through their tight-knit Houston community. As the media picked up the story, the gruesome details of her murder and her secret were revealed, sparking a nationwide debate. Some painted Marcus as a man betrayed, while others condemned his actions as nothing short of monstrous. But in the end,
It was
nothing
both.
could bring Ebony back. What had
It was,
started as
it
a
was a
secret
little bit of both.
kept out of fear had ended in a brutal, grisly murder. When the police pulled Marcus from the blood-soaked floor of their suburban home, the full gravity of the tragedy became immediately apparent. Neighbors stood outside, horrified whispers floating in the humid Houston air. Blue and red lights bathed the scene in an eerie glow, reflecting off the shattered lives inside. But Marcus, still covered in Ebony's blood, seemed detached from reality, his blank eyes staring ahead, as if he couldn't fully comprehend the nightmare he had created. The detectives who arrived on the scene were seasoned professionals, but nothing could prepare them for what they saw that day. Ebony's mutilated body was unrecognizable, lying in a pool of blood in the bathroom. The walls, once pristine, were now a grotesque canvas of violence. The entire house seemed to echo with the horror of what had taken place. A home that once symbolized love, now forever stained by death and betrayal. At the police station, Marcus sat in an interrogation room, his blood-stained clothes removed, replaced by a simple white jumpsuit. Yet no matter how much he was washed, the horror of that day lingered on his skin. Hours passed as detectives tried to piece together what had driven him to such unimaginable brutality. "Why did you do it, Marcus?" one detective asked, his voice steady but probing, trying to find a crack in the wall of silence Marcus had built around himself. For the first time since his arrest, Marcus looked up. His eyes, hollow and haunted, were filled with a mixture of sorrow and disbelief. I didn't know what I was doing," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "I loved her, and she lied to me. She wasn't who she said she was." The detective leaned forward, his tone becoming more insistent. "So you decided to beat her to death? And then mutilate her? Do you realize what you've done, Marcus?" Marcus's gaze dropped again, and he remained silent, as if the weight of his actions was too much to bear. It was clear that something had snapped in him, a fragile mind pushed to the breaking point by a combination of betrayal, rage, and his own deep-seated insecurities. The brutal crime made headlines across the nation, not only because of its shocking violence, but also because of the controversy surrounding Ebony's past. The revelation that she had been a transgender woman sent shockwaves through the media, sparking debates on gender identity, secrecy, and the limits of trust in relationships. Some called Marcus a monster, a man driven by his own insecurities to commit an unspeakable act. Others, disturbingly, framed him as a victim of deception. As the trial date approached, Marcus's legal team prepared to mount a defense centered around emotional distress, attempting to portray him as a man who had been so betrayed that he lost control in a moment of madness. The defense argued that Marcus had been pushed to the brink by the shock of discovering his wife's secret and the deep emotional toll it took on him. The prosecution, however, painted a very different picture. They presented Marcus as a cold-blooded killer who had brutally murdered his wife in an act of savage rage. Ebony's character was put under scrutiny, and her private life became fodder for the tabloids. But the focus remained on Marcus, whose actions on that fateful day would be dissected and analyzed in court. Witnesses were called to testify. Friends and neighbors described Marcus and Ebony as a happy couple, though some noted that Marcus had always seemed a bit controlling. As details of the crime scene were revealed in the courtroom, photos of the blood-splattered walls, the hammer used in the attack, and Ebony's mutilated body, the jury sat in shocked silence. One of the most gut-wrenching moments came when Ebony's mother took the stand. Her face etched with grief, she recounted how much her daughter had loved Marcus, how she had always worried about telling him the truth, but hoped that one day he would accept her for who she was. Her words hung in the courtroom like a heavy cloud.
She kept them
just wanted
papers
to
in
be
the
loved,
house.
and
She should
instead
have
she was
burnt them
murdered.
off of her.
After weeks of testimony,
That was the
closing
case. She didn't
arguments,
want to tell him.
and emotional
If
pleas from
she
both
wasn't going to
sides,
tell him.
the jury returned with their verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. Marcus showed little reaction as the sentence was read, his face a blank mask of resignation. He had gone from a newlywed husband with a promising future to a convicted murderer, his life now a shell of its former self. As he was led from the courtroom, Marcus glanced up at the gallery, where Ebony's family sat, their eyes filled with pain and loss. It was clear that no amount of justice could ever bring her back or undo the damage that had been done. Even after the trial, the case continued to stir debates online, racking up millions of views on YouTube as documentaries and clips of the trial circulated. Ebony's friends and supporters mourned the loss of a woman who had simply wanted to live her truth, but paid the ultimate price for it. They created a viral #JusticeForEbony movement that called for greater protection and rights for transgender people, bringing attention to the high rates of violence against the trans community, especially Black trans women. The house where Ebony had been murdered was eventually sold, but neighbors say it never felt the same. The horrific events left a scar on the community, one that would take years to heal. Meanwhile, Marcus's family tried to come to terms with the horrifying crime with some members claiming they never truly knew the man capable of such violence. This case isn't just about murder. It's about how secrets, when buried too deep, can explode in ways no one expects. Ebony's life was cut short not because she wasn't brave, but because the world wasn't ready to accept her. Marcus's uncontrollable rage is a chilling reminder of the dangers that come when identity, trust, and masculinity collide in tragic ways. This case, sensationalized on across social media, continues to serve as a grim example of how deeply rooted fears and societal pressures can tear lives apart in the most brutal of ways.
Hey yo, man. Y'all tell me what y'all think of the video, man. I think the boy was guilty of murder, and you know, he should have went to jail for something, but at the end of the day, she did betray him. So I mean, I can understand him blacking out in blind rage, you know, and I can sympathize with that. But you know, y'all let me know what y'all think of the video, man. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time, it's your boy Bed 3200, and I'm out of here, man.